So the next trend we're going to talk about is the ion charge. So if I look at the periodic table, I can predict what charge the ion is going to have. Now remember, this actually matches up with my valence electrons. So we talked about column 1 having 1 valence, 2 valence, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8 valence electrons. So it actually kind of ties in to how many valence electrons I have. So remember also when we talked about metals and nonmetals, I said that metals, which are on this side, like to become cations, they like to lose electrons. And my nonmetals over there like to become anions, they like to gain. So let's refresh that. Metals, they're on this side, they're always positively charged. So remember, that's cations. Nonmetals, they're on this side of the periodic table. They're always negatively charged. And that is anions. All right, so let's think about the number of valence. So if we're talking about valence electrons, I'm going to write it on the bottom. So valence electrons, this was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. When we talk about if they're gaining or losing electrons, we want to think about the fact that they're trying to become stable. Our most stable is when all of my orbitals are full and I'm happy. So let's think about who doesn't really like to do anything, who doesn't like to react. My noble gases. My noble gases have full valence electrons. They have a full S, they have a full P, and then depending on which one we're talking about, they have a full D and even a full F. So all their orbitals are nice and full and they're happy. And so that's why they're not very reactive. And so when we talk about trying to make an ion, we want to talk about trying to get to be a noble gas. So let's look here at my first column. My first column has 1 valence electron. So I can either gain or lose. If I gain electrons, I would have to gain 7 electrons to get all the way down to be my noble gas. Okay? But I don't want 7 to get all the way to 8. It would be easier if I just lost 1 electron, so that when I wrote my noble gas configuration, when I wrote my electron configuration, I would have 8 on the outside. So that's why these metals, they're going to lose an electron, and they like to lose 1. So these guys in this first column are going to be a +1. Everybody in that first column wants to be a +1 cation. These guys have 2. His choice is either to gain 6 to get to 8 or to lose 2. It's easier to lose 2 than it is to gain 6. And there's a typo, and I didn't notice this till just now. These should all be 2s. Okay? I don't know if that's a typo. That chart comes from your book. So there might be a typo in the chart in the book. I'll have to look. Okay? So these guys want to lose 2. So this column is a +2. All right, this column. He can either gain 5 or lose 3. So for the metals here, they want to lose 3. Now, here we go. In this column, we're going to have some nonmetals and some metals and some metalloids. So we got a little mixture. I can either gain 4 or I could lose 4. So depending on if I'm a non-metal or a metal, depends on where I want to go. If I'm a metal, then I want to lose. If I'm a non-metal, I want to gain. So when we get to this one, this is where we say plus or minus 4. Because it depends on what I am. I either want to gain or lose. So +1, +2, +3, plus or minus 4. So now I'm here. In this column, I'm either going to lose 5 or gain 3. Much easier to gain 3 than to lose 5. And we're talking about nonmetals. So my nonmetals here would rather gain 3 and become negatively charged. So these guys are going to be a -3. I can can either lose 6, gain 2. So it's easier for me to gain 2 and become -2. So remember, nonmetals want to become a anion. Column 7, I can either lose 7 or gain just 1 guy. So he's just going to want to gain 1 electron, become a -1 charge. And then the last one are my noble gases. Remember, they don't want to lose or gain. So they don't have any charge. They're neutral. They don't lose electrons. They don't gain electrons. That was one of the properties we talked about. So one of the things you want to be able to do when you get your periodic table is you want to be able to say, what are the charges? So when you think about it, you say +1, +2, +3, plus or minus 4, -3, -2, -1, 0. Okay? So you want to kind of be able to spit it out and say what those charges are going to be based on where they're at on the periodic table. Okay? But it has to do with the number of valence electrons they have, and we found their valence electron number from their electron configuration. So it all kind of goes together. All right, so now we're going to move on to another trend. Remember, I said this whole chapter is on trends. So our next lecture video, we're going to talk about another trend called effective nuclear charge.